Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll start by
May it please the court, Mr. Bashir and Mr. Waikwa appear for the first petitioner. Mr. Awele, who is coming in shortly, and myself appear for the second petitioner. Ms. Kirumi appears for the third petitioner. Leah Ezekiel appears for Muhuri, the third interested party. And also holds brief for Ms. Mutemi for the fifth interested party. Ms. Munga appears for Haki Center, the fourth interested party, and also holds brief for Ms. Soweto for the sixth interested party.
For the respondents, we have Ms. Kamande for the first respondent. I agree with Mr. Subu for the second and third respondents. He'll be here shortly. Mr. Nyamodi and Mr. Dong appear for the fourth and seventh respondents. And Mr. Nyamodi is on his way. Dr. Nyamundi for the fifth respondent. I don't see anybody for the sixth again. Then for the first interested party, this Ms. Dom will pray for Mr. Ochi. Oh, sorry, and Mr. Ongwanda is here for the 8th and 9th interested parties. Good morning, Madam General. We have our first witness. Yes, Jerome. This one.
I swear by the Almighty God that the evidence I shall give for this court is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Are you comfortable?
Yes, sir.
Please confirm to the court that your name is Jerome Pachin.
Yes.
You are one of the two principal secretaries in the Ministry of ICT.
Yes.
And in that capacity, you are in charge of the State Department of ICT.
Yes.
You have been authorized to swear affidavits in response to the matters before the court on behalf of the fifth respondent.
Yes.
And in regard thereto, you have sworn five affidavits. Is that true?
Yes.
My lady, there are 5 affidavits sworn by the witness now before court. We have numbered them because they were sworn on the same day, at least 3 or 4 of them. I think that the court assistants have done that. The first one is an affidavit dated 26th of April 2019, and it has 18 paragraphs. An affidavit by the witness dated 26th April 2019, it has 18 paragraphs. The second one, my ladies, my lord, is an affidavit of even date, an affidavit of 26th April 2019, which has 22 paragraphs. My ladies, my lord, the third one is an affidavit of even date, 26th of April 2019. It has 26 paragraphs. The fourth one is an affidavit dated 26th of April 2019, has 25 paragraphs. The last one, the main affidavit, so to speak, is dated 26th February 2019 and has 60 paragraphs.
The last one is dated
26th of the day of February, sorry, 26th February 2019. That's correct?
Yes.
February, 26th February 2019.
Right.
And that affidavit has 60 paragraphs. Now, Mr. Ochieng, you would like to adopt these 5 affidavits as your evidence in chief in these matters before the court?
Yes.
Finally, what is your training?
Thank you very much. My name is Jerome Ochieng. I am a holder of master's degree in information engineering. That's the highest qualification I currently hold.
Information engineering.
Right.
Very well. You will be asked some questions.
So just to remind again, this witness will be cross-examined by those who gave notices. Cross-examined. So that will be Mr. White and Mr. Wende.
Mr. Chair, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Walko. I've been asking a few questions. So, you say that you have a master's in information engineering. From what university?
My master's is from the University of Ryukyus in Okinawa, in Japan.
And I would assume that your bachelor's is
My bachelor-
in engineering?
My bachelor degree is in Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Computers.
So, in that sense, you would say you're an expert also on ICT. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you have any other training?
Yes.
What other training?
I have done a diploma in management information system by the UK institute called NIIMs. I have also done a couple of courses, a number actually, relating to ICT. One of them is the client server system development, which was a 6-month course that I also did in Japan. And other than that, on the professional line, I started working as a systems analyst programmer by the government of Kenya in the year 1997. Then later rose to a senior system analyst programmer, then later rose to become an ICT officer. Those were the levels of progression. Principal ICT officer up to the level of deputy director. I have also worked as an IT manager at the Public Procurement Oversight Authority.
If you could kindly finish yourself, the court is recording. So don't start very fast.
Or me.
Yes, we are having a digital recording that is also recording with your hand. So that's why council is asking to just slow down. I think council is also recording by hand. So you've gone through a number of qualifications. Anything else you wanted to say about your qualification?
Also, and before I was stopped, I was just still rising.
Oh, okay. Let's keep rising. And also, yes, right.
I was still rising. Having worked as the manager for ICT at the Public Procurement Oversight Authority for a period of 6 years, and thereafter I was appointed by the government as the director of the Integrated Financial Management Information System.
That's IFMIS.
Popularly known as IFMIS, a task I did for another 5 years before now I was appointed to the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of ICT.
Is that we are rising up?
So far.
Can we go down? Are you forgetting an important qualification? You're also an alumni of St. Joseph Seminary?
Yes, how did you know that? Yes. Okay, before that, of course.
It's okay, we can proceed.
Okay.
You are permanent secretary. Is it permanent or principal?
The title changed to principal secretary.
To principal secretary. That's under Article 155 of the Constitution.
I don't know the article,
Okay. But the proper title now under the law is
principal
secretary.
Okay. Yes. And I would also want to make a clarification. Yes.
Yes.
When council asked me whether I am the principal secretary in the State of Department of ICT, I said yes. The ministry has 2 slots for principal secretary. There's the principal secretary for ICT and the principal secretary for broadcasting. A task now I do both because due to other reasons, the principal secretary for broadcasting has since not been appointed.
But your substantive is ICT.
Yes, my substantive is ICT.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to just be clear, you would understand a lot about the NIIMs system, partly because of your qualification as or your position as principal secretary ICT department, correct?
Yes, I would.
You would also understand quite a bit about this just because of your own personal professional qualification as an ICT expert. Right?
Yes, yes, I would.
You would also understand this fairly well. I haven't used mic for a long time, so I think I'm messing up. Or there's a
I think there's another mic which might be on.
I think it's because of the
the
proximity.
proximity. I'll defer to Mr. Chairman.
I will fill my
Thank you. I was just getting to the question that you would also understand the NIIMs system fairly well because of your role as your part of the interministerial committee, coordination committee on good human and health.
Yes.
And that's in page 155 of current features affidavit. We don't need to go there. I'm just saying that. Would I be right, Mr. Chair, to say, while Mr. Kipicho is the administrator of NIIMs, the ICT ministry in yourself sort of are the intellectual, or you are responsible for the intellectual work relating to the system of Huduma number. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Do you remember when you started to build or to start preparation or any aspect relating to the building of Huduma number?
That would be around either early this year or February, between January and February.
This year?
Yes.
But the preparations had started way back, correct?
Yes.
You actually do know that in your affidavit, there is a letter of dated 10th May 2018, where you are asking different government officers to attend for purposes of starting to design or think about things, correct? It's at page 1 of your big affidavit.
May I get to it once? Yep.
And you can confirm that page 107, the signature there is your signature.
Yes, it is.
And could you just read the last paragraph of that?
It reads, the purpose of this letter, therefore, is to request you to nominate 2 officers, an ICT and business, to attend a technical meeting on Tuesday, 15th of May 2018, at Teleposta Towers, 10th floor boardroom, starting at 7:30 a.m.
And the technical meeting that you're asking people to attend is in relation to NIIMs that's mentioned at the second or the first full paragraph at the top of 107, right?
Yes.
So you would agree with me in terms of the start of development of NIIMs, at least in terms of the evidence we have before court, goes back to May 2018, correct? Would you agree on that?
I would not agree
You would
because
not.
yes, I would commit to my
Would you then agree that the considerations of the technical aspects of NIIMs went as far back as May 2018? Would you agree with that?
still before that?
Or before that? When?
Like I said, around January or February
2018.
of 20, yes, of 2018.
Where is the data?
The NIIMs data?
The Huduma number data.
The Huduma number data?
Yes.
It is in Kenya.
It's in Kenya.
Yes.
And is it stored in individual files or is it in the master data?
It is in a data.
And this is a master database.
Yes.
Yesterday, Engineer Kibicho testified that you've not, even though you've stored the data in the database, in the master database, you've not started analyzing that data or issuing Huduma number because of the court orders. Would you agree with that?
Correct.
Okay. But he also testified that you're in a place where if you need to do it, you would do it once the court allows you to do that, correct?
Correct.
So you would agree that you've developed the algorithm that you need for the duplication, is that correct?
Yes.
And again, from the understanding from Mr. Kibicho and previous government witnesses, is that the software aspects of the systems are developed
Yes,
by Ken.
right.
Very well. Would you agree with me when you are developing a software of the type of Huduma number, that under the industry standard, one of the things you would do very early on is an aspect of modeling? Would you agree?
When you say modeling, what exactly do you mean?
So you would develop, for example, a prototype, right?
Not necessarily.
You would not. So would it be your evidence that the system you've developed, you never tried to model it and test it, or to develop a prototype and test it? You just have the system and no tests have been conducted. Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't. What have you been able to do? Have you done any tests?
Can I take you through now?
No, we'll come to that if we need to. So in the tests, some of the tests you've done would be, for example, the penetration test. And the reason we do penetration test is to check the security of the system. You would also do a test to check whether the system is able to be duplicated, correct? So you would conduct some analysis so early on before you deploy this system to the public to make sure that you have a system that has integrity, right? And this is being done by members of the technical committee and the experts who are working on the system, right?
Yes.
And reports of this analysis would be generated so that they're shared with you, they're shared with Engineer Kibicho, correct?
Yeah.
You know, part of the petitioner's complaint is that you have or may have developed a system that may compromise on right to citizenship, and especially for the nominees. You understand that? Do you know there is a complaint about exclusion on nationality, especially in the Nubian community? You know?
I've heard about that.
Do you know that it's part of this petition?
Yes, I do.
Do you know that part of that complaint relates to fear of what system you might use? Yes or no?
Come again, bring it back.
Would you agree that part of the concern or fear about exclusion on basis of nationality or ethnic group is based on the system you might be using for Huduma?
Yes.
You agree? You also agree that part of the complaint relates to the fear of how the system may not be able to protect against right to privacy. You understand that, and you agree. You agree. You know that that is a complaint. You don't agree. Sorry, I'll let you explain. So let me just rephrase the question for the record. You know, to be fair, not what to agree. You know that part of the fear of the petition is that you may have designed a system that may compromise on rights to privacy.
Yes, to the extent of the fear.
Yes, it's just their complaint.
Yes.
It may be founded, it may not.
Yes.
You've talked about conducting penetration tests, right? Doing certain analysis even in relation to duplication. I would assume you also tested the algorithm to make sure that it works and it can adapt to scale, correct?
Yes.
Have you provided to this court any reports on any of these tests that you've performed?
No.
You've not. have you provided any report to this court that indicates or that shows, the report itself shows that when you tested for penetration or any other analysis, the system passed? Have you?
No.
You know about TDM, right?
Yes.
And my understanding is that Idemia, you procured the 31,000 kits from Idemia, right? Otimorpho, and they become Idemia as far as I know. Am I confused? Or is that right?
Yeah, you're right.
No. This is the Otimorpho that was involved in my elections in 2017. It would be the same Otimorpho that Parliament investigated recently. In Royford Morithi's affidavit, it does say actually at paragraph 16 you got the kits from Idemia, right?
Yes.
You wouldn't contest.
No.
Okay. And when did you engage Otimorpho to provide the kits?
I can't remember the date exactly, but well, of course, before the enumeration process started.
So just rough estimate, early 2019, early 2018, when?
It would be thereabout of the early 2019.
Early 2018.
Sorry, 2018.
Early 2018. So you started the process, as I understood, just to help, and correctly, you started the process in early 2018.
Yeah.
Of course, the registration did start until 2018. I think April, right?
Yeah, April 2019. Yeah.
So I'm just trying to find, based on a rough estimate, whether when you got into a contract with Otimorpho to provide the kits, whether that was 2018 or 2019.
Yeah, I would be, I think to be clear, this would be documentation that would have been provided because the procuring entity was actually Ministry of Interior, but I would say we were working in partnership. But the dates, I don't want to mess myself up until I repart. I would not, unless.
Can I ask a different question?
Probably, if you have any information about when the contract was signed up, probably now just.
I'm just trying to find,
yeah.
Mr. Chair. Let's work this out. How far back? Okay. I understand from your affidavit, if I'm not mistaken, it's paragraph 26. That you cleaned up the Idemia equipment for, what do you call it? It is technical terms used.
For back-end applications or any other application. Yeah.
Do you remember when that happened? 26 of the main affidavit of Jerome Chair. The big one. The big ones.
Yeah.
Can you estimate for us approximately when you did this?
For April 2019, before the exercise for enumeration.
So very close to enumeration. And now working backwards, do you, and especially being a member of the Interministerial Committee, do you have an estimate as
that will run me towards the end of 2018.
Do you have recollection when the kits were delivered?
Thereabout, around that time.
Late 2018. How many companies did you consider for the award of the kit supply?
Three.
And was the bidding process?
Not in my affidavit, but I would imagine the Ministry of Interior, that was the procuring entity, would be having all that information.
But you're not aware of it. You're not aware whether the Ministry of Interior has provided the documents. What else have you engaged with to do in relation to Huduma?
Apart from the supply of the kits?
Yes.
None.
Nothing. So there's this concept of single source of truth. That's how you understand Huduma number, right? And if my understanding is right, the reason we use the phrase single source of truth is because it's the one place you can go and find credible information in relation to a Kenyan citizen or a foreign national on all aspects relating to government identification processes. Correct? Source of truth concept, correct?
Yes.
In fact, you would agree with me that the government actually has analogized the need for this more data to oil. Would you agree?
Yes.
And in fact, in page 112 of your affidavit, the big affidavit for the court's benefit.
Which page?
Page 112. This is the policy on data protection. And in the second paragraph, you say in the middle of that, or the policy says in the middle of that personal data is a critical resource that drives economic growth and development in this century, as oil was in the past. Correct?
Correct.
So it's this whole idea of data being actually, maybe I'll leave that. But let me ask. I understood there was there's a Huduma bill that has been published, or at least that is in the ministry, right?
Yeah.
And I understand there was a public participation process at the Kenya School of Government.
Yes.
You attended, Mr. Oche.
I did.
You did make a statement to this effect that data is the new oil, correct?
I did.
And you're not making that statement as Mr. Oche's statement. It's the statement of the government of Kenya, correct? Would you agree that that's the thinking of the government of Kenya in relation to data?
Well, data is.
Yes or no?
Okay, bring it again.
So the thinking about data being analogous to oil is actually a government of Kenya's position to the extent that it even reflects in the data protection policy.
Actually, it is an international position.
Okay, it's an international, and Kenya has adopted that position. Okay. And Kenyans understands that the more oil you have, the more ahead you are, right? The more oil you have, the more ahead you are. Would you agree?
No.
You wouldn't. Okay. Do you think it's proper to analogize personal data to oil? Do you think? Yes or no? Do you think?
Yes.
You think it's
Yes.
okay. I understand that the ministry conducted a SWOT report. You know about the SWOT report, right?
Yes, I do.
And you've actually included it in your documents, the code, right? And again, referring to the big document by Mr. Cheng, and that's the SWOT report that starts page 1 of the 120 pages. I understand that the the main motivation of doing this, first of all, you did this with UNICEF, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay. And I understand the main motivation of doing this was to try and investigate the best way to have a universal birth registration using unique identifier from birth, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, I also understand in the process of doing this SWOT report, there were studies conducted, including in places like Estonia, correct?
Yes.
And you found in places like Estonia that they've been able to capture, or they've been able to achieve universal civil registration because they're able to allocate 100% unique identifier number to children when they're born.
Yes.
And so you would say that if, just as a hypothetical, if Kenya was to achieve a universal civil registration where we allocate each child a unique identifier, we would be quite ahead in terms of identification of citizens, correct? But you would also agree that to some extent this SWOT report goes a little bit further than just universal civil registration, right?
Yeah.
And in fact starts talking about the concept of NIIMs, right? Would you agree with me that the people who did this overstepped?
No.
That, okay,
No.
thank you. Just looking at so is it right to say that part of the motivation of coming up with NIIMs was inspired by the SWOT report?
Part of it, yes.
Okay. Do you know whether the government has conducted any cost and benefit analysis, checking whether going the unique identifier way under universal civil registration, as opposed to implementing NIIMs as proposed now, which has there been any cost benefit analysis comparing those two?
Not that I'm aware.
Not that you're aware. No, of course, you've not provided any documents on cost benefit. Do you know actually whether there's a cost benefit analysis conducted for NIIMs?
No, not that I'm aware.
You are not aware. You've not seen it.
No.
let's go to SWOT. I want to go to page 67. Sorry, I'm getting myself out. Looking for long. Excuse me, I confused my page, so I just need to find the specific page. The document does discuss a methodology, you know about that. The SWOT document. Let's go first to page 85. Are you on page 85? Is that right?
Yeah, 85, yes.
And there's a table, two tables at page 85, and then goes on to page 86. You see those two tables, right?
Yeah, where we have schedules and signatures. Nice. Are we talking about the same thing?
Yes, yes. You've seen that. I don't know whether the code is there. Okay. Would you have to do maths to figure out where my next page is? That's what the question about. Let's try page 71. I'm slow at maths, sorry. Sorry, starting from page 68. And what I just want to show you at page 78 is the places you benchmarked, and you've listed a number of countries, right? You see that, right? From this report, and especially looking at page 85 and 86, would you agree that the only groups that were involved in developing the SWOT were government officers and UNICEF officials? Would you agree?
No.
You wouldn't. In page 85, do you see a name of an individual not associated with government?
Based on the ministry, no.
Just 1 second, Mr. Chief. Do you see anybody in that list where they say ministry not signed up for a ministry?
Yes, yes.
And that would be in the second column, right?
That would be on
Oh, the second thing.
number 9, saying UNICEF.
Yes. Okay, welcome to that. Let me just stand the first second. Do you see anybody not associated with the ministry or UNICEF in page 85, please? Yeah.
Yes.
The consultant. And that would be the consultant in relation to SWOT or doing some of the SWOT work, right?
Most likely.
Okay. Beyond the consultant, do you see anybody else who is not associated with the ministry or UNICEF?
No.
And in page 86, I'll let you look at that. And if you can tell me, do you see anybody in that page 86 not associated with a ministry or UNICEF?
No.
Okay, let's go to page 15.
15.
Yes.
1-5, yeah?
Yes. Yes. And this is on the methodology, right? And the report speaks of people consulted, right? And it starts from the second paragraph, right? And lists either ministry or UNICEF. You see that? And continues with the methodology, which is desktop. The second methodology was the desktop review. That's the paragraph, correct? Page 15. Do you see anywhere in that methodology reference to an non-governmental or non-UNICEF individuals or office?
No.
No. You know of the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights, right?
Yes.
You also know of Commission on Administrative Justice.
Yes.
So you are aware of Chapter 15 of the Constitution, which is on independent institutions, which is Kenya National Commission, CAJ, the budget, director of budget and such. You are familiar with that.
Yes.
Because the government talks.
Yes,
right?
yes.
You are aware, for example, the mandate of Kenya National Commission on Human Rights under Article 59 is to just monitor how government implements rights. You are aware of that, right? Do you see anywhere in this methodology or in page 85 and 84, I believe, where an officer from Kenya National Commission on Human Rights was involved?
No.
Any independent office that you can recognize?
No.
You are aware these non-governmental organizations, other than UNICEF, that deals with rights of children, correct?
Yes.
Have you seen in where I've referred to you any consultation with a non-governmental organization other than UNICEF?
I would also wish to draw you to page 15.
Sorry, I just answer my question first. Have you seen? You can say yes, and then take me to where you've seen an NGO being involved.
I can say yes, and I say implied.
Implied.
Yes.
That's your answer. Okay. You also produced the data protection policy, right?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, and that's at page 110 of your big bundle. It starts at page 110.
Yeah.
Are you there?
Yes, yes.
When was this data protection policy developed?
The development started in 2018, but it was approved by cabinet early, that's around maybe early 2019.
Okay. And actually, this falls under the ministry, right?
Yes.
So you would know quite a bit about it.
Yes.
And I would actually put it to you that the reason we've provided this data protection policy is to try and persuade the court that some of the issues petitioners raised, especially in relation to privacy, are being addressed by the courts. Correct?
Yes.
Have you provided this court with any evidence on who was involved in the development of the data protection policy?
No.
Yesterday, Mr. Kibicho made a statement that in government, policy precedes law. That's a general and basic understanding in government, right?
Yes.
And you would even agree that the reason you had data protection policy and now you have a data protection bill is based on that logic, correct?
Yes.
Is there a NIIMs policy?
No.
So would you therefore agree that part of the reason the data protection policy was developed was to frustrate the petitions?
No.
Thank you. I want to go to Engineer Kibicho's big bundle. And this is the Engineer Kibicho's affidavit, and it's the ones on February 26th. Can you get a copy, please? I just want to refer you to a few paragraphs. Are you there? Yeah. This is the. The quota, it's a big affidavit under 56. I just want to take you to paragraph 22 first. You're done, Mr. Chief? Paragraph 20. Can you read that paragraph, please?
It says that in this regard, it is clear that the lack of relevant and crucial interlinkages between all these databases contributed substantially to overall government inefficiency fostered by bureaucratic red tape. For example, there is no linkages between the National Transport Authority database and other related departments, including the Traffic Police Department.
Would you agree when Mr. Kibicho says these databases, and he's given some examples, but would you agree other examples could be NHIF?
Yeah.
Would you agree another example would be CARE? Would you agree another example would be IBC? So, in a way, you would agree that the databases is referring to other different databases that government holds in relation to its citizens and foreign nationals, correct?
Yeah.
And to the extent possible, all of that.
Yeah.
Do you agree with Mr. Kibicho's statement in paragraph 22?
I do.
Would you agree that that was one of the significant motivation of coming up with good number? Let's go to page, paragraph 41. Are you there, Mr. Chief? Thank you. I don't want to ask you to read, but if you skim through what is contained there, and knowing that you've also studied this document, do you agree with what Mr. Kibicho lists as the objectives of NIIMs, including harmonization?
I do.
Let's go to paragraph 40. Then Mr. Kibichi talks about the key benefits of NIIMs. And again, I'm sure you've read this. Would you agree that what he lists as benefits of NIIMs are what he also understands to be benefits of NIIMs?
I do agree.
You look at the last paragraph. I want to read back to you to paragraph 44, where he talks about the institutions and people who stand to benefit greatly from implementation of NIIMs. And the list goes on, in fact, includes the judiciary, it includes county government, it includes private sector and others. Do you take an issue with the institutions list? Do you take an issue with the judiciary being a beneficiary?
No.
Do you take an issue that county governments will benefit?
No.
Would you say that for county governments, for example, they would benefit greatly from Huduma number in the delivery of services?
Yes.
And those are the services they've been allocated under the Constitution chapter in the 4th schedule, correct?
Yes.
You would agree when he talks about institutions and people who stand to benefit, it's because these institutions and people would have, in one way or the other, ability to interact with needs or Huduma, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, just in paragraph 9 of your affidavit, and maybe just for purpose of time, you do talk about the history of what you're trying to address through Huduma number, the persistence of different databases, right? You remember talking about that? And in fact, at paragraph 40, in paragraph 13, you talk about harmonization of databases, right? This is your affidavit you're talking about.
Yes.
And you agree that as somebody who understands the system and design, part of what you're trying to achieve is interlinkage and harmonization of the different government data, correct?
Yes.
You would therefore agree that this is a watershed moment for Kenya. Kenya will achieve quite a big thing through Huduma.
Yes.
You would agree.
I would agree.
You would agree, in fact, it's something that resolves a complex, persistent problem that the government has been trying to address for a long time, right?
Yes.
So this is not minor. This is not child play that we're dealing with, right? It's not child play. Some of the things or areas that would benefit is health and agriculture.
Yes.
And you know, as a government officer, that significant aspects of health and agriculture reposes in county government, right? Mr. Chair, is there an identification crisis in Kenya today?
Yes.
There is. Is government able to function, given that there is an identification crisis?
Yes, with challenges.
With challenges. And this identification crisis has been with us for quite a while.
Yes.
It goes back at least to 1989.
Correct. Yes.
Would you agree, given how long it's taken, or we've had this identification crisis, that it's prudent to make sure that whatever system we develop is a credible system? Would you agree?
Yes.
Would you agree that a credible system would be a system partly that takes rights of Kenyans and non-Kenyans seriously, including rights to privacy? Would you agree with me that if it were to take us just a little bit longer to develop that system that would secure the rights, that we should be able to wait and do it right? Do you agree?
No.
We won't. So you would say that we are in such a rush to have Huduma.
We are.
And you would be implying that if we don't, we will collapse in the context of identification in the next month or two. Would you agree?
Not in the context of identification, but in the context of challenges arising from identification.
And that is in the next month or two.
Anytime.
Anytime. Therefore, you would not agree that we have any time to consider alternatives. Our fate is Huduma.
Yes.
Do you agree our fate now is Huduma?
Yes.
We don't have time to consider alternatives.
Yes.
And the government has been in such a rush to implement NIIMs without looking at alternatives because of this crisis. Would you agree?
The agency, not a
The agency.
The agency.
You know what establishes NIIMs, Mr. Oche?
In terms of a law.
Is there a law that establishes NIIMs?
To the extent that I know, we do not have a NIIMs law, but at least following the interaction now that I've been a member of the subcommittee, I know the NIIMs is based on a couple of other acts.
Based on a couple of other acts.
Yeah.
But you are aware that the one act that specifically mentioned talks about establishment of NIIMs is the Registration of Persons Act as amended.
Yes.
In fact, section 9A, right? I can give you a copy. I have an extra copy. I'm not sure whether the court needs copies. I can pass on. I'll be referring to section 9. You're fine. Okay. So let's go to section 9. Are you at section 9?
9A, yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
So you found it.
Yes, I did.
And it talks about the establishment of the National Integrated Identity Management System.
Yes.
You've not seen any other law that talks about establishment of NIIMs other than the Registration of Persons Act. You've not seen any other law that refers to National Identity Integrated Management System other than the Registration of Persons Act?
National Integrated Identity Management System. Yes.
Thank you very much. I knew I was getting something wrong. You've not seen?
No.
You've not seen a regulation that refers to NIIMs?
No.
You've not seen a rule that refers to NIIMs?
An executive order.
It's on an executive order. And so you've also not seen a policy told us there's no policy. So you would say the foremost authority in relation to NIIMs is the Registration of Persons Act.
Yes.
And you would agree that in terms of direct reference of what NIIMs is, how it should be, is in the Registration of Persons Act.
Yes.
Let's just look at section 9A again. And specifically the functions of NIIMs. And I want you to run through those functions, if you may. Could you tell me whether there is anyone in section 9A that talks about NIIMs being a system for delivery of government benefits?
No, I've not seen.
You are aware of the concept of rule of law, Mr. Chair, as a government officer,
Yes.
and you know it's a concept within our constitution. If I may just propose to you, part of what rule of law means is that law is supreme over acts of both government and private parties or persons, right? You would agree. You would also agree that another aspect of rule of law is creation and maintenance of an actual order of positive laws. So you establish a normative order based on laws. You would agree with that?
To the extent of the layman that I am.
And a government officer.
Yes.
Who actually is in charge of a department.
A minister.
A minister, excuse me. You would also agree that rule of law requires that the exercise of all public power must find its ultimate source in a legal law. And that means that any government action must be regulated by and a member of the ministerial committee. Is there a law establishing Huduma number?
Other than this one?
No, I'm not saying, is there a law that establishes, do you know whether there is a law that establishes Huduma number?
The law that establishes NIIMs.
That's not my question. My question is, do you know whether there is a law that establishes Huduma number?
The Registration of Persons Act. Yes.
Which section?
9A.
And what does section 9A establish?
A national integrated identity management system.
Is there a reference to Huduma number in 9A?
I wish to clarify.
No. Is there a reference?
No.
Yes. is there any law that is enforced today that refers to huduma number?
No.
Okay. So the reason you are referring me to section 9 is because you're saying NIIMs is huduma number.
It is.
How much Swahili do you understand, Mr. Chair?
As a Kenyan, fair
As a
enough.
Kenyan. Yes, I'm actually probably Western and probably for historical reasons. Let's go step by step. So what we have established in 9A is National Integrated Identity Management System, correct? Correct. National in Swahili is kitaifa, right? Would you agree? Would you agree that integration or integrate is kuunganisha in Swahili? Is that a fair translation for lay people? Okay, let me give you another option. Would you say to integrate or harmonize is tangamano?
I would use sawazisha.
Sawazisha. Okay, let's work with you. And identity in the context of NIIMs, you would agree is referring to utambulisho, right? And you would also agree that system context of NIIM is mfumo. So if I was to use a layperson interpretation of NIIMs, what I get is something like mfumo, tangamano, ama, what did you say, sawazisha, right? Sawazisha wa kitaifa wa utambulisho. Would that be a fair translation?
Yeah.
Thank you. So how did you go from NIIMs to huduma number?
There was a communication concept. We were all aware of the level of education of Kenya, as it were, in terms of if we, and we are equally learned, are not even agreeing on the interpretation, then you can imagine what would be my father in a village called Kolwen, in a Kach sub-county, be doing with that full acronym. So we went through a communication concept.
And you decided, if I may, just so that you calculate them, that's the concept of the communication concept that advised that you use the name of the
Something that would be
the name of the
yes.
And would you say that many Kenyans would not understand that taifa or taifa is national? Do you think that if you asked majority of Kenyans to translate to you taifa or national, they wouldn't be able to say taifa or taifa?
Maybe 50%.
50%. Do you think they could think that integration is kuunganisha, zawazisha?
Now the percentage grows.
The percentage grows. Kitambulisho. Do you think many Kenyans would have a problem understanding that identity refers to kitambulisho or utambulisho?
That would be maybe less than 30%.
Of Kenyans who would know that identity
would not understand.
Oh,
yeah.
Or we are working in the negative.
Yes.
And system, mfumo. That would be a challenge.
Now we'll be going to 90.
Do you know that parts of government work is to sensitize them about things they don't know?
Yes.
So you said this came from a communication concept.
Correct.
And you also say that it's no law that talks about huduma.
Correct.
You would agree with me and have this in your attachment, I believe, at page 108.
You're still using your numbering?
Yes, you have to do it. Page 108. one way. So this form is for huduma number, right? The
Yes.
data capture.
Yes.
And then at the bottom, the form says huduma number registration is mandatory as per section 9 of the Registration of Persons Act.
Yes.
We can go to the next page. And it's just the biodata information, right?
Yes.
And then there's a disclaimer. You see the disclaimer, which
Yes.
talks for generation of a huduma number. And then there's the last, should a space provided on this form be insufficient, fill additional information, right? This form is for huduma number.
Yes.
It's not for names.
Yes.
So the exercise you've been carrying out in Kenya is not a section 9A exercise, correct?
No.
It's not correct. Is it a section 9A exercise or not?
It's not.
It's not.
I said, I mean, let me just get that. What I'm saying,
Please. My question was ambiguous, so
Yes.
I confused. Let me ask you, would you say that what we have in 108 and 109, which is the authoritative document of registration,
Right.
is based on anything to do with section 9?
it is responding to 9A.
Is it based on 9A?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Is there anywhere in this form that there is any mention of needs?
No. And I think I explained.
Let's go back. Will, your counsel will also ask you questions. Let's go back. You say that huduma number is a communication concept. Would you agree that you chose the term huduma number to engage in a campaign of deception?
No,
You wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
You would not agree that you needed to label the process as huduma process so that Kenyans believe that they will get benefits. You would not agree. I'm helping. I'm answering your question. Okay, would you agree that that's what you intended to do?
Now, when you put the negative, okay, now.
Okay, let's go back a bit. My point is that part of the reason you labeled this process as a huduma process is so that Kenyans understood it was a benefit. They were going to register so that they can get benefits, correct?
Yes.
Do you think your government cares about law?
It does.
Let's go to paragraph 31 of the evidence. Then in paragraph 31, you're explaining what DNA is, right?
Yes.
You've seen shown days that discuss this DNA plan,
No.
or if not. So you see what I understand from paragraph 31 is all in relation to DNA, which is you're not collecting DNA. Is that right?
True.
You're not also collecting information. As executive, you have to do that, right?
Yes.
The law says that as executive, you've been given the power to collect. You collect DNA. It also authorizes you to collect GPS. You do see it in your, and this is paragraph 32 and onwards, the advantage of having DNA, correct? And that advantage is in relation to identification and an identification system like NIIMs, correct?
Yes.
And the same thing for GPS.
Yes.
So you would agree that in certain circumstances, it would be legal without more for government to require DNA or GPS from Kenya.
Yes.
I want to move on to paragraph 44 of your affidavit. If I understand paragraph 44, what you are attempting to do here is to respond to the question whether there is law or regulation that secures data, correct?
Yes.
I also, at some point, you talk about also know of adequate laws in relation to the issues that petitioners complain about, and specifically privacy.
Yes.
And also surveillance.
Yes.
And breaches of the system. And how deal with it, correct? And the laws you've provided to this court is Access to Information Act 2016, right? Access to information?
No, I don't.
You don't. I'll just pass you a copy. I want you to go to of the Act. You know, under laws, there is what they call long title of a law, right? That's the one that says an act of parliament to give effect to Article 35 of the Constitution. You see that? The top part.
Yes, yes, sir.
Can you read that? Just the highlight.
An act of parliament to give effect to Article 35 of the Constitution, confer on the Commission of Administrative Justice the oversight and enforcement functions and powers and for connected purposes.
So that law is about Article 35 of the Constitution, right? You've also referred to the Kenya Information and Communications Act.
Yes.
Can I just share a copy with you, please? And I want you to go to the long title again, which I wrote for you. And give me the long title.
An act of parliament to provide for the establishment of the Communications Commission of Kenya to facilitate the development of the information and communication sector, which including broadcasting, media, telecom,
You've also talked about the cyber crimes, right?
Right.
I'm going to give you the cyber crimes, and if you could go to the long.
Says an act of parliament to provide for offences relating to computer systems to enable timely and effective detection, prohibition, prevention, response, investigation, and prosecution of computer and cyber crimes. To facilitate international cooperation in dealing with computer and cybercrime matters and for connected purposes.
You referred to Computer Misuse and Cyber Crimes Act because, in your opinion, that act is fully enforced, correct?
Yes.
Because it was passed in 2018, right?
Yes.
Are you aware that a significant number of provisions in that act have been suspended by the court?
Yes.
On May 29, 2018, by an order of Justice Monte. Are you aware of that?
I'm aware of
You are aware of the suspension.
But not of the details.
Are you aware that the Attorney General tried to have that suspension lifted? And on October 1st, the court refused to lift those orders. And this is again the same case, Blog Association of Kenya versus the Attorney General.
I'm aware.
And in that petition 206 of 2018, part of the complaint or part of the reason that the Attorney General was asking that the orders be lifted is because he noted that it's impossible or difficult to implement some of the sections you refer to under the Kenya Information Communication. So you know some of the sections under Section 83 of Kenya Information and Communication Act, the Attorney General things, because of the orders of this court, are unimplemented. You are aware of that?
Yeah.
You provided us with a copy of the data protection bill, right?
Yes.
And that's at page 128. And I want you to go to page 131, please. You are aware that the complaint by petitioners in relation to privacy relates to Article 31 of the Constitution. You know that. And specifically includes Article 31C and D of the Constitution, right?
Yes.
Can you read the long title of the bill? And this is your bill, it's your ministry's bill.
Correct.
Okay. Please read.
Is an act processes and for connected.
Would you agree that it's a fair summary that this law is trying to provide regulatory mechanism for Article 31C and D of the Constitution?
Yes.
And those are some of the provisions that the petitioners have complained about.
Yes.
Do you know of any law that is in force today, specifically passed to implement Article 31C and D of the Constitution?
As a layman, no.
As a government officer?
No.
Do you know of any law that creates the Data Protection Commissioner that you sought to create under Clause 5 of this Data Protection Bill?
No.
Are you aware of any law that specifically creates and regulates the work of a data controller and processor that you sought to create? C and D that you sought to create under Clause 25 and specifically Clause 25C and D of the Data Protection Bill. Are you aware of any law in force today that specifies principles and obligations of personal data that are specified in Clause 25C and D of the Data Protection Bill?
To the extent.
Are you aware of any law that is in force?
Yes.
You are.
Yes.
And that law would be?
Would be the kicker.
Kicker. You are aware of this section?
No.
You're not. Are you aware of any law that specifically in force, that specifically speaks to what you try to achieve under Part 5 of the bill?
Yes.
And that would be what law? That's access to information. To the extent that you've given that information in your affidavit. Are you aware of any law in force that specifically attempts or does what you do under Part 5 of this bill, which is the transfer of data outside care?
When you say Part 5, I'll have to go to it. Because,
Part 5. Transfer of personal
I
data.
want to know what the 5 is talking about.
My lady, my apologies. Yes, it's part. I was talking about part 5. I should be talking now about part 6. I thank the court for that guidance. Part 6, page 156.
Appointment of data commissioner.
Transfer of personal data, giving that power to the data commissioner to make sure that due process is followed. Are you aware of any law that is in force trying to do that now?
You cannot. When you say
Do you understand my question?
yes, that's what I'm saying. When you say part 6,
Yes.
I would want to be very clear what part 6 is talking about.
Just answer yes or no. If you say, because your lawyer will be able to help on this. Are you aware or not?
No.
You're not aware. So yesterday, Mr. Kibicho testified that the way Huduma number is designed, if you don't have ID, if you're 18 and above, and when you're under 18, you don't have that registration certificate. So in your view, it's possible to register for Huduma number, even if you don't have a national ID, if you're an adult or as a person who understands the system. Are you at one of your as a person who understands the system, you can see that part of the information requested for citizenship is ID number. Would you agree with me that if we were to believe you and not Mr. Kibicho, that it's possible to register without an ID number? What is required under that part is to mark XX. Would you agree with that?
Sorry, I think I got. It is mandatory to have an ID number for registration.
Are you changing your
Yes,
position?
yes, I am.
You're changing your position.
Yeah.
So you want to go back to where Mr. Kibicho was?
Yes,
Okay. So if you don't have an ID,
right,
you can't register.
correct.
You understand that part of the complaint by the petitioners is that they are citizens of Kenya, but being members of the Nubian community, some of them have had difficulties getting an identity card. You understand that is part of their complaint. I'm not saying that you have to believe it, but you understand.
Yeah, to the extent of what I've read.
So hypothetically, it would be your position that if a Nubian person who is a Kenyan or who has not been able to obtain an ID would not be registered.
Yes.
For Huduma.
Yes.
Mr. Kibicho also talked about the data, the current data, under the various registration system being Aadhaar unadulterated. I hope both of us have a problem with pronouncing the word, but I think I understand it too. You would agree? Yes. Are you familiar with the concept of exclusion by design? And by that I mean you can design a system that excludes certain categories of people. Is that a possibility when you design a system? So let me just rephrase. When you design a system, is the system able to filter and desegregate different categories of people? Yes. And Huduma number system has that ability to filter and desegregate based on characteristics of the information given, right? Yes. So for example, Huduma number would be able to say, this person is a non-citizen and this one is not. So hypothetically, assuming you are right the first time you say it's possible to register without NIIMs, it's possible that if that were to happen, that a person who is a Kenyan citizen who does not have an ID will be identified as a non-Kenyan, correct? A person just so you agree that the system has the ability to filter and in fact categorize the identity of the person. Yes. And the way it does that is, for example, looking, have you provided an ID? And if you've provided the ID, the system is programmed to say this is a Kenyan because they have proof of Kenyan citizenship, right? So you have a Kenyan who has no ID. Would you agree that the system will filter that person? Is likely to filter that person as a non-citizen?
That's an inherent functionality of any database.
Just say yes or no. Is it probable? Is it possible?
I'm also trying to help.
I appreciate, but if you can just hear my question.
Yes, I am.
You know, I'm not as
that's
familiar, so you.
That is why even when you throw me to legal, I also say take me slowly.
Okay, let's go slowly for my turn. So if the system is filtering and a person has not provided an ID, it's more likely that the system will label that person as an non-Kenyan, right?
Not the system.
It's not the system.
But you can.
No, I'm asking you, would the system do that? Yes or no?
It would.
It would.
Yes.
Okay.
And any other data.
Okay. Can we go to current features affidavit, please? And I want to take you to page 193. Yes, are you there? Page 193, current features affidavit. Are you there? The section 2, citizenship information. And this is the manual, if I may. Oh, this is the manual. This is a manual developed to assist people dealing with things, correct? You're aware?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's go to page 193. Actually, the manual is page 177 for course. and the title is National Integrated Identity Management System Training Manual, training. Can you read the first paragraph in the section 2?
And citizenship information.
Yes.
Indicate the identification number of the person you are registering. If he or she is over 18 years and has a national ID, if he or she does not have, then you mark XX.
And just to stop you there, this is instruction to the registering clerk or individual who is registering using the form we've seen in page 1. So and this information gets transferred to the before and you would still not agree that the system has the ability to label a Kenyan citizen as a non-citizen just because they've not provided an ID.
I said the functionality of the
Would you agree or not with me?
I would still not agree.
You would still not. Have you seen the affidavit of Mr. Mushan? Edward Mushan? Yes.
Yeah.
You have. We could go to it. And maybe for you to need to pull out. Unfortunately, I don't have this copy. So if I understand correctly, part of what this system is able to do is to allow the security agents or government officers, if they need to know where a person has been, they are able to do that if the person has interacted with the Huduma number system, right?
If the security.
Can I explain? Can I first? So the way I understand it is one thing that the system will help with is an officer, a government officer, and specifically maybe security officer. They could go into the system, and if a person has interacted with the system for security purposes, for example, if the person has interacted with the system, they are able to see where the person interacted with the system, right?
Yes.
For example, if you interacted with the system at NIIF headquarters, you would tell White House NIIF headquarters in October, right? Yes,
No.
it's possible to
Not this.
not this system. Does this system require a person before they get services to do verification?
The system.
Yes.
No.
The system does not.
Doesn't.
So was my understanding wrong from Mr. Kibicho's evidence that, for example, if a police officer stops you, you give your card and then they will be able to check your particular?
Yes.
That is possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me.
Before you explain, but you agree that is possible?
Yes. It is.
And so there is sort of communication between the gadget the police officer may be holding and the master database. Right?
Yes. Yes.
And you're aware of the concept of metadata, right?
Yes.
And logs.
Yes.
And there's not much of a distinction, right?
Yes.
So would you agree that when that verification happens, some metadata is left?
Yes.
So there's a log that Waikwa got checked by the traffic officer who are trying to intercept criminal X and found that Waikwa is not criminal X, right?
Well, not.
There would be a log, but the log would not state that that's what was happening.
Yes.
But there would be a log showing that there was an interaction between Waikwa and the police officer.
The log would simply say, police officer XYZ has interacted with the system and his query was ID number 123 and he got this return.
Okay.
Yes.
And the log would also be able to show where the interaction happened, right?
Yes.
Do you know whether there is a law, a regulation, a law that specifically speaks to how metadata generated through the NIIMs system should be handled? A specific rule, regulation, or law? Are you aware of it? For NIIMs.
Sorry, just.
Can I say that?
Yes, please.
Do you know whether there is? So we established that NIIMs has the ability and in fact will generate some metadata, right?
Yes.
So my question is, do you know whether there is a law, a regulation, or a rule that speaks to how that metadata should be regulated?
Yes.
Specific
Yes.
to needs.
Specific to data.
To data.
Yes.
And that
Because
is,
metadata is data.
you're aware
And
of
that,
it.
yes.
Okay.
And that would be the access to information.
That would be the access to information.
Right.
Does the access to information say how long the government should retain metadata?
Yes.
You're aware it does.
So,
Are you aware of the section?
no.
Do you know whether there is a law that specifically states when and under what circumstances government should purge metadata generated through the NIIMs system?
Yes.
And what would be that law?
Access to information.
Do you know the section?
No, I don't. If we operate from
So well, you have the, you know, I'm also being tired, so you have the chance to explain with your council. Where are the servers for the duplicate for NIIMs?
like I
Are
said,
they, no,
they are in Kenya.
they can.
Yes.
And yesterday, actually, just Engineer Kibicho testified that the system is built locally.
It is.
In fact, largely under the ministry.
Yes, indeed.
And in fact, largely under your guidance.
Yes.
You know Brian Omwenda?
Yes, I do.
He's a witness, and in fact, he's one of your witnesses.
Yes.
And you've interacted with Mr. Brian Omwenda. Well,
Yes.
Brian Omwenda testified that the system can be changed. You built the system, right?
Right.
He testified that if there is a need to change the system, it can be changed. Would you agree with him?
Yes.
that it can be tweaked.
Yes.
Mr. Karanga Kibicho testified yesterday that the only reason we've not been able to undertake any activity under the NIIMs system is because of the court order. Would you agree?
Agreed.
And by the way, so the system we're talking about, if I understand, is a centralized system that is federated. Would you agree with that?
The system we are talking about is a hybrid,
A hybrid system,
centralized and decentralized.
centralized and decentralized,
Right.
which has interlinkage between functional database and the master database.
Correct.
And the purpose of that is so that if you need to find information from the master database when you're dealing with a functional database, then you're able to access.
Right.
And vice versa.
Yes.
Mr. Kibichi, so our expert, Mr. Anand, sort of talked about a hub and spoke system. It was an analogy. You spoke, especially in the context of a bike. That is a fair assessment. Right? Would you agree?
Can you use normal English?
Basically, what I understood him to mean is that, just what I told you, or just what I asked, that there is an interlinkage between the master database, because let's assume the master database is here, you have a functional database here, right?
Right.
It's an interlink.
Correct, yes.
And it's an interlinkage.
Yes.
And it's possible also to have an interlinkage between a function and a function, right?
No.
It's not.
No.
Karanga Kibicho yesterday testified that the reason why, sorry, the city has cost about 7 billion, but you projected to be about 9.6 when it is done.
Yes.
He also said that the significant costs from buying the kit and paying the collective.
The significant cost comes from paying the numerator.
Paying the numerator and the kit.
Yes, yes. Yes.
Not in the system.
Yeah.
You are aware that the petitioners are not opposed to digitization per se. Are you aware of that?
No.
You're not. So I am just informing you that the petitioners are not opposed to digitization per se. You believe me? I'm informing you. Yes or no?
That's good news.
Good news. That in fact the petitioners have a problem with Huduma number because they think in packaging. They think, and specifically to design of the system, they think that the system is designed or may be designed in a way that it might exclude. Remember, we talked about exclusion in the context of nationality, for example. And may also cause a breach of rights to privacy. You're not, are you aware of that?
I disagree.
You disagree, that is not a complaint of the petition.
Or in terms of the, no,
Yeah.
I think you didn't come out
Okay,
clear.
sorry. I'm just being one.
Yeah.
That the concern of the complaint of the petitioners is they believe that the system as designed might compromise on rights of nationality, in that specific and privacy. You are aware that that's part of it.
That's the complaint.
Which goes to design.
Yeah.
Mr. Anand talked about one way of dealing with that is to design a decentralized system that is siloed. Would you agree that that's a fair way to respond to breaches?
Completely disagree.
He also testified that if you want to centralize, to have a master database, one way to avoid so much intrusion of privacy, the minimum necessary information. Would you agree that that's a fair comment?
Disagree.
So your position is that the best and most prudent way is to put as much information in the master database
And secure it.
and secure it. So you've testified that costs of designing and building the system, and we're talking about software here, right? Is not necessarily an inhibitive cost, or it's not the bigger cost when you go to the 9.6 billion.
No.
It's not. By the way, yesterday Mr. Kibicho said that the system we will have is one of a card where you input data, right? And has a chip.
Yes.
And my understanding is that that's sort of similar to Estonia, which also has a card with a chip.
Yes.
But the difference is that in Estonia, all the information is stored in your chip, and you use password to access the information.
Correct.
While in our case, the information is in the master database. When you use the password, you access the master database. Correct?
Good.
Or biometric.
With your biometric.
With biometric. So that's the distinction.
That's it.
You agree?
Yes.
So going back to the cost of the system, built in Kenya, right?
Yes.
By Kenya. Not necessarily a prohibitive cost.
Yes.
In fact, we were told that we are exporting some of these ideas, right? If this court was to order that you should convert Huduma number into a decentralized siloed system with minimal data registration stored in the master database, would you comply with that?
As an order of the court?
Yes,
Yes.
you would comply. And it's really a software and system building issue, which you say that that is done by Kenyans, correct?
Yes.
If the court was to order that the master database contain only the minimum necessary information on identity and identification without linkage, or at least a way that linkage. Sorry, let me break my question. If the court was to order that you only store the minimum information, identity and identifying information in the master database, would you comply with that?
We would comply.
Sorry, is it a yes?
Yeah, to the extent of compliance. I mean, we are a law-abiding government. I say yes.
You are a law-abiding government.
But we would also.
No, if it's a yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And so you would confirm that it's technically possible to do that?
Possible it is.
Mr. Chair, I thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Wende, how long are you?
Not more than, not more than.
Mr. Chair, you can withstand 1 more hour of cross-examination.
Yeah, Your Honor, I would. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Awele. I'm here on behalf of the second petitioner in this case, and I have a few questions for you. You are replying affidavit to petitioner number 15. Of 2019. Yes. That is your affidavit, you signed it, you read it, you understand it? Yeah. You understand it. It is your replying affidavit to the petition by the second petition, the Kenya Human Rights Commission. Understand that understand.
Thank you very much. We have had and we do have various registration systems that are in existence. We have the passport for registration, the National Registration Bureau with their own database, the Civil Registration Bureau. So all these databases fit in isolation. Our main objective of coming up with the NIIMs was to ensure that we actually come up with a single database that, to a large extent, collates all the existing identification databases, and actually a Kenyan would be having one number that we are actually calling the NIIMs number. That would be what we call the single source of truth. This particular number would be the number that now anybody else would be using, but it still cross-references all the other previous documents that anybody had, because, I mean, we still have multiple documentations and multiple databases that exist. But the difference here, again, to the extent of where now we are saying immediately we launch the system, the court will allow us to proceed for the newborn children, whereby they do not have any other historical data. Then we will be issuing them with a single identity, which we commonly refer to from cradle to the grave.
Okay.
There is a difference that, just allow me 1 second in the process of consolidating all this data, we are actually going a step further and include the digital biometric data.
Thank you. Now we're moving. I'd like you to explain to us what exactly this digital biometric data is.
The digital biometric data would be the fingerprint impression that we actually captured in the digital format. The facial recognition that we also captured during the registration process.
Anything else?
From the definition of biometric data ranges from face, from hands, from earlobes. There are so many. Bio as the word means that the human aspect of you. But then for this particular exercise, we limited ourselves to the fingerprint impression and the facial recognition.
Thank you. You have made a very important point. You say that biometrics are essentially the digital human aspect of me as an individual. Correct? And so you would agree with me that basically what you seek to achieve, or what NIIMS seeks to achieve, or biometrics, is to reduce essential characteristics of the human person into the digital form and automate it. Right? Now, you have explained very well what biometrics mean. You understand the physiological and behavioral capabilities of biometrics.
Yes,
You do.
we do.
You understand, therefore, that the collection of the human elements of your person basically reveal who you are.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Does that strike you as sensitive information?
It is.
It is sensitive, personal.
Yes, it is personal information.
You also understand that once that information leaves you, then what ordinarily would be private to you can be manipulated for other purposes.
Can.
Yes. It is possible.
Yes, it is possible.
So, would it be a fair statement to make, if I say that the reason why you have decided to amend the Registration of Persons Act to introduce the collection of biometrics as an extra feature for registration and identification of persons is because of the uniqueness of biometrics generally?
Yes.
Now, you understand, of course, that you have agreed that this is very sensitive personal information. I'd like to look at paragraph 14 to 20 of your affidavit. And of course, please have a look at page 105 of the affidavits. Page 105, 10. By that letter, you can confirm that the development of NIIMs was a joint effort between various government ministries and departments.
Yes.
Is your letter?
Yes.
Very well. So I'd like you to refer to page 177 of Engineer Kibicho's affidavit. Yes. You have it today? Well, yes, that's the one. 177 of Engineer Kibicho's affidavit.
Yes.
You see that? What do you have there?
The training manual.
The training manual. Which year was the manual developed?
2018.
2018. So if NIIMs was developed this year and operationalized this year, on what basis was this training manual created? What are you using to create this manual? I believe this is the manual, training manual of NIIMs. You want to read the first, get that page itself.
Yes, the title says that.
It's a training manual. And you say NIIMs was developed in 2019, operationalized in 2019. On what basis was that training manual created?
Just a minute, let me just get my documents together.
Yes.
Yes.
You have all the information with you.
Now,
Go ahead.
yes. So you say on what?
So it was a testimony that NIIMs was developed and operationalized in 2019. You had a training manual created in 2018. On what basis of that training manual created?
This, let me just say, the process of the development of NIIMs was not an event. The development of the NIIMs software, because I think
That's fine.
to respond to your question, you asked me when it was implemented.
No. The records will show that I asked you specifically when it was operationalized.
Yes, operationalized. Yes,
I asked you
2019.
when was it developed?
Yes.
You say 2019 as well.
The development is a process that started way back in 2018.
Yes, it started in 2018. Yeah. Saying it was concluded in 2019. So you had a training manual in 2018. On what basis was it created? No.
Yes, it is on the basis of whatever was being developed, especially this data capture manual.
Correct.
Yes.
Very well. Do you understand that NIIMs was established pursuant to an act of parliament?
Yes.
Do you know when that the law that established the names came into effect?
I seen it unless I to the correct.
The president assented to it.
I'm not sure about your chance. Yes.
The president assented to the law on the 20. Just give me 1 minute. On the 31st of December 2018. Right? Now, would it then be fair for me to conclude that NIIMs was developed before the law was developed?
NIIMs as the system itself.
The system itself.
Yes, the process of development started
Before the law.
Actually, like I said in my petition,
Yes.
the idea of harmonization of government data started in 1989.
That's NIIMs.
Yes.
NIIMs was developed before the enabling law.
In the process of development, yes.
Good. Now, I'd like you then to explain to the court what were the guiding principles for the creation of NIIMs.
Like I explained previously, the most important thing was that the disjointed data needed to be harmonized.
We are not talking about the system. We are not talking about the overall objectives or purposes. We're talking about the system itself.
Yes.
We're talking about the system.
Yes,
so
exactly.
The infrastructure of it.
Yes.
On what basis was it developed? What was there a law or some policy or principles on which it was based?
Yes, on the registration. This thing called registration, person registration, something.
The one that was assented into law on the 31st of January 2019, correct?
The registration of person.
Very well. Now, your ministry was a lead ministry in the creation.
In the technical development,
Yes,
of the system. Correct, yes.
Now, would you know exactly the basis upon which the design of the system was done?
Yes.
What was it?
It is on the basis of the existing databases. And the objective was consolidation of all these existing data.
And what are the components of this design?
What do you mean component?
The components of the system itself. The architectural design of it.
Yes.
Yes.
But the architectural design of NIIMs looks like this. Technically, NIIMs is a three-tier. We have, when we talk about the architecture of NIIMs, we have the first layer, as we normally call the data.
Yes.
Then we have the second layer, that we call the application layer. Then we have the third layer, that we actually call the user access. And even within the user access layer, we have three categories of users. You have the primary users, or the principal users. Then we have secondary users, which are to general would be other government agencies, and we have other users, any other users. So generally, in terms of the systems architecture, that is how the system is designed to work.
And where did you get this information from?
What do you mean? Where?
Where did you get it from?
Technical knowledge.
So is there any other place where the rest of us can find this information from?
Oh yes.
Where?
Go to online, Google, client systems, client server systems architecture.
So you are saying that the architecture of NIIMs is provided for in your website.
like I said, my explanation of the architecture is based on a technical design. It is basically how you design a system from the technical point of view, how we want it to look like.
So you design?
Yes, we did.
And do you have publicly available information about this design?
No, we
do not. Why?
for security.
For security. Now, how is the data in this system secured?
The data in the system, like I mentioned, we are talking about 3 layers in our architecture.
I understand.
Then
all the 3
I'm coming.
Just hold on, Mr. Chief. I want us to move very fast. You have explained all the 3 layers of the system.
Yeah.
How is the data in each of those layers secured?
Encryption.
Encryption. Now,
encryption at the database level, encryption at the application.
What do you understand encryption?
Encryption means you lock the system such that using a code, whatever information, like 2018, if somebody would have access to this, would see it as a jumble of so many items.
Correct. Yeah. Now, what prejudice would you suffer in revealing the architecture of NIIMs if it is impossible to access the information contained within that architecture because it is encrypted?
Very good. There are a community of people who are called hackers, whose their daily business is to try and penetrate systems. Right? By already exposing your architecture, you are giving them so that they don't even start at the beginning, they are starting at the end. So they're just going into the entry. Security of systems is normally in layers. The more the layers you have for the security of the system, the secure your system becomes.
But ultimately, you will agree that for each layer, the encryption protects the data contained.
Correct. Yes.
And do you have confidence in the encryption standard you are deploying for?
We do. We do.
And therefore, do you still believe, I'll ask you again, that if you reveal the architecture of NIIMs, you will suffer no prejudice whatsoever in the security of the data that you have within? Very allegedly describe to the court how the system is penetration and that penetration tests have been done by the best of hackers.
Yes, I agree.
You are the best of hackers.
Correct.
Within your needs.
And they're from me.
And why are you scared of the public?
Because you don't, like I said, you don't want to expose yourself. The more protected you are, the better. There is a risk.
Very well.
Let me just.
Yes.
There is no system in this world, not country, in this world that is foolproof.
Correct.
So your security will depend on what mechanisms you are putting in place to protect yourself.
You say that this system they perform a very important function within the justice system.
Correct.
These are the hackers.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Chair, the data that you're collecting, whose data do you
Right.
Now, do you want this you are saying is a gospel truth absent any other verification mechanism? For instance, making the system public, the architecture?
Yes, because I would want the public to also believe that I am also a citizen.
Yes.
They have given me the responsibility.
No, let us go step by step.
Yes.
Do you understand that her data is her data?
Yes.
Her data is her data.
I do.
Why do you believe that your views about the spiritual system should override their collective views?
It is not their views about the system. It is the controls we are putting to safeguard their data.
Why should they trust that what you're saying is true?
Because they have entrusted us as the Ministry for ICT to do that.
And you're saying that you're beyond reproach.
Yes.
Now, during the development of NIIMs, one of the things that you did was to benchmark the other countries. Right. And you went to Estonia, for instance.
My team.
Your team went. I'd like you to go to page 225 of your document. Yes.
Which page again, Mr.
225 of Mr. Jerome Chamber. Before we bounce to just go on to the 227. What do you see there, Mr. Chair?
The reference to the data.
Data sharing privacy. You know that paragraph of this
Systems are
so which system?
of this.
Yes, system. How did your team get that information?
Two possibilities, because I mean, I think I identified the team. Upon visit, first time to show, knowing that in one possibility, just giving possibility that I'm trying to okay. Secondly, probably it is on.
Is on 228.
Same.
Yeah. It is based on this information that you have provided this the summary of findings from your fact-finding mission, and in fact, based on the successes of the implementation of this unique identifier in Estonia, that you have modeled the NIIMs system.
Right.
Now, do you think that they would have provided you this information if they felt it was prejudicial to the system? They give you the information on the architecture, correct?
Right.
You have everything there. All the layers you have described to us verbally.
Yes.
You went to Estonia and you were given everything.
Yes.
Right. 228 similar. Now, why do you think that NIIMs is so special that if you give us the same kind of information, then you would suffer some sort of prejudice?
I responded when you said whether we have the source code. Wasn't that the question?
No, I didn't. I'm not mentioning
whether we have exposed the code. No. I mean whether we have exposed the code.
My question is very simple. It does not matter what the architecture is. You say all the data within the architecture is encrypted, right, and protected. Right. What prejudice you just have in just revealing what the architecture is, and you say it's encrypted. Right. When you went to Estonia, the Estonians from whom you have learned a lot and modeled some bits of the new system, have given you their entire architecture. Right. Not in one diagram, but two. So the question is, what is it about NIIMs? What's so secretive about NIIMs, or special about NIIMs, that you cannot give us the same information you got from Estonia?
We would still, I personally, as the PSYCT, would still insist that we would not share that.
Okay. Are you aware? You said you, Mr. Brown, right? Mr. Brown has worked in the ministry. Are you aware of government enterprise architecture principles, right?
Not adopted. Yes. But it was just guidelines.
Guidelines.
Right.
And have you in any way sought to implement any of those guidelines recommended by Mr. Mano?
Yes, the team has, and this again is a continuous process as they were developing. These are some of the things they were looking at.
Yes.
The experience from Estonia, the experience from the other countries they visited, any other relevant documentation. For purposes of development, these are research information.
Okay. Do you think they are good?
Yes.
Recommendations or guidelines?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Now, one of the things that Mr. Mwanga government ICT solutions you agree with those recommendations? Or do you understand by predefined?
You have
Do you agree with me that if you want citizens to trust you, as much as you believe in you, you have to trust them as well? Yes. How do you get the trust towards everything or whatever solution you come up with within the ICT?
as you talk about publication,
Yes.
The citizens of Kenya would really not have a problem, but here provides information beyond our boundaries. That is the reason we are talking about. That we needed to, I mean, we kind of need to shield ourselves, because the question is, once you have your documentation online, you don't know where other places, I mean, to what extent it goes.
Would you agree, Mr. Chair, that one of the most recommended mechanisms for ensuring systems integrity within your industry, ICT, is to actually expose those systems to hackers like Mr. Petitioners?
Yes, yes.
So why would you have a problem with exposing that system for verification and public scrutiny?
Hackers, I agree. The most important.
Do you think, for instance, that it will help you improve on the system?
I agree. The most important thing I want to mention is that when we talk about the hackers, then these are the people whose this is their daily bread and butter.
Right.
And they would know what are some of the areas they would want to attack.
Okay. Is that good for you?
It is good for me, because that is the work I am giving them to do, and they're actually being paid.
Oh, you mean you're about your people?
Yes, yes.
You pay them to do that.
Of course, that is their profession.
So they earn a living.
They are actually called ethical hackers.
Okay.
Yes. So ethical hackers, let me just explain.
I understand. Yeah. So these people would basically earn their monthly paychecks from your brief to hack the system and to test it.
Yes.
Its integrity.
Yes.
How objective do you think they would be now that you pay them and they earn their daily bread from you? How objective would they be relative to other hackers that have no loyalties to you?
They would be the most objective. Why? Because in the event the system is compromised, they are the people I would go back to and ask, what else did you do? Did this guys outsmart you?
What's the worst that you do to them?
Well, of course, they are government disciplinary procedures, they are employees, and that is an internal disciplinary process.
What's the worst that happened?
Of course, be fired.
Yes. That's all that happened.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Chair, we were on trust. You have annexed to your affidavit. I like that you look at your affidavit. You have annexed to your affidavit documents support of your position in this matter. I'd like you to look at the McKinsey report. Let's go to 241. That's a McKinsey report. You have read it? Have you read that report before?
Not in full.
Not in full, but you have produced it in this petition as well, supporting documents. Right. Would you kindly on page 241?
Measuring the value of good digital ID is by no means certain or automatic. Careful system design and well-considered government policies are required to promote uptake, mitigate risks like those associated with the large-scale capture of personal data or systematic exclusion, and guard against the challenges of digital ID as a potential dual use of technology. User adoption of digital ID will be accelerated if it provides value, engenders trust, and protects privacy.
Right. User adoption of digital ID will be accelerated if it provides value, engenders trust, and protects privacy. Go to page 225 of the same affidavit. You have one of the summaries of success of implementation of the unique personal identifier in Estonia from your benchmarking trip. Bullet number 1, the enabling environment. The last bullet there under, can you read that?
Citizens are aware.
No. Under the enabling environment.
Oh, sorry, not accountability. Sorry. Trust among government, private sector, and citizenry.
Okay. And the next bullet is legal and policy grounds.
Yes.
Yes. What is the other success story about the Estonian system?
Technology innovation.
Policy grounds.
No, security and protection of data.
Security and protection of data. Accountability, the last bullet point there.
Citizens are aware of how the information held by different agencies is being used.
Well, and then at page 112, you have produced a data protection policy. I'd like you to read the second last paragraph. Last paragraph, sorry. Yes, and read just the last sentence that starts with the ground.
Which page is the one?
Sorry, my lady, page 112.
It says, the government recognizes that this protection is an essential element in maintaining public trust in entities managing personal data and essential for the social economic development of Kenya in the fourth industrial revolution.
Now let us read what the protection is. Read to the beginning of that paragraph.
I go back up again.
Yes.
The government of Kenya values the privacy and protection of personal data. All the actors involved in the management of personal data are expected to respect the requirements of safeguarding personal data. Yeah. Through the Constitution, the government of Kenya is committed to protecting the privacy of individuals.
Now, you are all experts, Mr. Brian Wenda, who recommends that you have open systems that define security policies. You have produced before this court a document by McKinsey that basically recommends that in order to engender trust in any digital ID system, you need to publicly make this information public. And now your data protection policy recommends that in order to gain public trust in the system, you must come up with policies to ensure that that information is available to the public. Now, can you please explain to the court how NIIMs has complied with those recommendations?
To the extent of awareness creation, before the registration or the data capture process started, there was a lot of publicity that was going around the entire country in terms of what NIIMs is all about, what this data capture intends to do, and how it was going to benefit the citizens. We went through using the national government administration officers.
That's fine, Mr. Chair. We're not talking about the benefits of NIIMs.
No.
We're talking about the
And that's what I'm saying.
Information about how
Yes.
this data
Yes.
has been held. And we're talking about the system, in other words.
That's what I'm saying.
Do you have any publicly available information about how this information is held?
About the specific information, I think when we read Mackenzie's information, I mean, he's actually talking about building the public trust.
Correct.
How do you build the public trust? We inform the public the reason why we are collecting this data. That is the entry point.
Yes.
That we are collecting how this particular data or this information, this exercise that we will be conducting, which is the collection of the biometric data, will help you as a citizen. And that bit with you.
Correct.
Yes. Because you're asking me how we have responded.
Yes, that will help. You explain to the citizens how collecting that information will help them.
Correct.
But you explain to them the risks also attendant to the collection and how those risks. That is what I have.
We didn't go to that extent. Because I can imagine back to my mzee seated somewhere in Kusa, I started giving him an explanation about hacking, what sense it would make to him. But we
so you may not give this information to members of the public because of their literacy levels. Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily. I just used that as an example.
But the long and short of it is that you do not provide information about the risks attendant to this system and the measures you're taking.
From a communication point of view,
yes.
A citizen wants to understand whatever government is doing for them. And we are telling them that through this particular initiative, we will enhance service delivery. It's the kind of information we are passing through to the
on what basis do you make this conclusion that all citizens is just to know what government do for?
As government. Any other government is there to serve its citizens.
Correct.
Yes.
And so that is the only information that you think you should provide to citizens?
Not necessarily the only information, but in terms of the kind of information you want to pass them, that is priority number one.
Do you think it is equally important to inform them of situations when their personal privacy may be at risk?
That would have still been addressed because this is
Was
not
it
an event. No.
Thank you. Now, would you define or describe NIIMs as a basic or advanced system? And when I say that, I'd like you to look at page 264 of your affidavit. 264. Now, at 264, the last paragraph, titled Digital ID Programs that Unlock Value while Addressing Risk, require careful design, appropriate infrastructure, and well-controlled governance. All right? Now, just read that paragraph.
Realizing the value while controlling for risk relies on considered decisions on scope of use of cases provided, systems ownership, front and back end infrastructure, processes, and program governance. Whether the digital ID system is basic or advanced shapes all further decisions about systems designs, infrastructure, and governance.
Now, you were in agreement that the connection is sensitive personal.
Agree.
Relative to that, would you describe the system as a basic or advanced system?
It is an advanced.
It is an advanced system. Right. Now, go on to that stage, that paragraph.
Whether the
You read that, the next one.
advanced digital IDs can unlock significantly more value than basic ones, particularly in mature economies, but may be harder to implement. In addition, because advanced ID programs entail storage of larger amounts of personal data, they demand particularly stringent controls to guard against both misuse and associated risks. Essential elements include a robust approach to what data are collected, very high standards of safe data storage to guard against cyber intrusion, and mandated collection of user consent for all use of personal data.
Thank you. So basically, your own document in support of your position in this petition recommends that an advanced system, which you say is, should have particularly stringent controls to guard against both misuse and associated risks, right? And very high standards for safe data storage to guard against cyber intrusion. Correct. Now, would you say that NIIMs, as currently conceptualized, meets this standard?
Yes, I would.
And it is based on standards that are publicly available and you can use to benchmark or to measure the system itself?
Well, not publicly available.
Yes.
Again, for security reasons.
Do you think not being publicly available meets the high standards threshold recommended by McKinsey?
Yes.
You think it does?
Yes, it does.
Now, McKinsey also speaks about consent. Now, your ministry was did you in any way contemplate that the voluntarily?
Yes.
Is the information you're collecting being given voluntarily?
Yes.
Why do you say so?
Because nobody was asked to give them.
Nobody was asked. Now,
Yes.
You are aware.
Yes.
And you are aware that under the same law, police officers or your officers can arrest any person who has committed an offense without our help. Are you aware?
Then that's legal part.
You are not aware. So you, now that the law establishes means, makes it an offense not to provide. For refusing to do so.
Based on the court order, the court
Or the
said,
law. The law.
well, I'm not a lawyer. So,
What do you-
yeah, there are various, depending on the provisions of the law. Yeah.
Now, you have in your affidavit without having to resort back to the data owner.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Have you come up with any interoperability mechanisms to ensure that that data is properly used for the purpose for which it was collected?
Yes, that would come up even looking at the laws about the policy on data protection.
Yes.
Already is talking about access of data, who to access, and what some of them. As much as we have not gone to the act itself, policy guidelines are already there.
So you would agree that without the act, you cannot really enforce whatever it is you say exists in the data protection policy.
Without, I think the data protection, and I think I have an opportunity. The data protection goes beyond needs.
Correct. But it includes.
It includes needs.
So, would you agree that without an enabling law, you cannot enforce, or there is no way of an independent third-party observer of establishing that or enforcing your responsibilities to ensure that interoperability mechanisms have been complied with?
But there are already existing laws that take care.
No. Spoke about the data protection policy and the non-existence of a data protection.
Yes.
Before we go to the other laws, would you agree, first of all, that without those interoperability regulations, it would be difficult to enforce compliance against your agency or the administrator?
It would not be difficult.
It would not. Now, you say that the data protection policy creates this interoperability mechanism. Can you identify in
The data
protection policy? What variations would guide or use data between industries?
I think now let me explain. The access to data by various agencies, first of all, is controlled at the systems level.
Yes.
You may not even request law. At the system level, we are able to control who sees what data. Why? In our design, we have what we are calling an approval hierarchy. An approval hierarchy dictates, based on the credential the system's admin gives you, what data you can see, what data you cannot access, and what you can do to that data.
I believe that these are regulations being used.
Yes.
Second bullet?
One?
No. The second bullet.
Ensure, yes.
What is the recommendation there for the legal framework for information society and information rights?
Ensure interoperability framework regulations.
So you came up with these recommendations, but decided that you would keep those regulations to yourselves within the council.
Ensure interoperability framework regulation.
Yes.
Is like I said.
Were these regulations meant to be public or
no, we don't. We
internal?
They are internal.
Internal.
Yes.
Do you think, Mr. Ocheng, that if you made these regulations public, it would be easier to allay the fears of the petitioners here about the privacy of the data and how the data is used?
Depends. I have no guarantee that if I give you the regulations, then you will be comfortable about your. I mean, it's a.
Do you need a guarantee?
It's a
in order to assure citizens that their data is being properly utilized.
I am responding to your question, and the question was, do you think exposing this data to the public?
No.
Do
you think making this
exactly
this
regulation public
would assuage some of the concerns that have been raised by the petitioners about the privacy and security of their data?
And like I said, it's subjective.
It's subjective. So according to you, you don't believe that making those regulations public would be a win use for privacy? You don't think so? Now, you have been shown at page 108 of your document the data capture form that you're using to capture information. 108. Yes. Yep. Does that form allow you, first of all, who created that form?
The Inter-Ministerial Task Force.
Yes. Do you know whether that form is anchored in under any law?
This form? Yes.
On any law?
The registration of persons.
Yes. Under which regulations?
I don't know.
You don't know. Does that data capture form allow you to collect anything else other than facial features and fingerprints?
Yes.
What else does it allow you to collect?
Right from the beginning.
Biometrics.
Yes.
Biometrics.
For biometric, the form only talks about the fingers
Yes.
and the photo.
And the photo.
Yeah.
Now, you don't know put in place on names. Now, do you have any means of certifying that the standards that you have used, the security standards that you have deployed for me, are the best standards possibly available for the kind of information that you collect?
Yes.
What independent means
is the external audit on the system.
Very well. And on what basis do you do that?
Upon request, they want to audit the system.
And again, on what basis would you say that a member of the public will come to you asking you to open up the systems for audit?
On what basis?
Or policy basis?
I don't know. Maybe they would just want. Yeah.
Now, from the minute you started collecting data for purposes of NIIMs, you used data collection on capture kits. provided by IDEMIA or Chile. Do you know how IDEMIA was qualified to provide this kit?
Yes.
How was it qualified? Who has custody of it?
Yes.
Who? The administrator of NIIMs. You know who it is?
The administrator of NIIMs. Yeah, the minister of Interior.
Was the Minister of Interior involved in the development of it?
Yes.
And I'd like to ask you a very hypothetical question. As administrator of NIIMs, he participated in the development of NIIMs.
Yes.
Now, in the event that as the administrator of NIIMs or any of the officers, data that has been collected is wrongly used or used for unintended purposes, is there any means that you know that the means wrongly used?
How would you know when it is breached?
And I'll try that position. You explained to us why you decided to employ names. You have registration systems.
Yes.
But you decided that names were still relevant.
Yes.
And the reason why you wanted names is because of the biometric, the capabilities of the biometric test, and you now want to collect. Now, my answer to your question is that I really do not care much about
We really want to go that way, Mr.
No, I'm trying to be.
Maybe I'll just remind the witness that he needs
That is the essence of biometrics, correct? Now, how would I know if you have misused my information for intended purposes?
You wouldn't.
Now, is there any independent means of checking the administration of the system to ensure that everything that he does with the information that he is
An independent audit.
independent audit?
Right.
And this independent audit will be ordered by who exactly?
Anybody who is interested in finding about the misuse of edit.
The same answer that you gave me. And
Right.
any basis in law or otherwise that you make for that, you provide for that conclusion?
The access to information.
Access to information. Any specific provisions? The access to information.
I find out whether my data has been breached. And I say an independent audit would actually confirm a breach of data.
Do you agree with Mr. Chair that if you have zero is to oversight the administration, it would be much more preferable than having 30 million tenants requesting you for audits every now and again?
Okay.
You agree? Now, you say that this NIIMs system was developed internally. So this is fairly new technology.
Yes.
Correct? Yes. Now, do you understand therefore that it may have certain vulnerabilities that you want to test and be sure of before you deploy this technology?
Yes.
Are you aware of the concept of data protection impact assessment?
Yes. Yes.
You are aware. Did you carry out any such assessment?
Yes.
Do you have the report publicly available?
Internal.
It's internal. So, this you agree is on the data. Don't you think it's absurd that you conduct a data protection impact assessment and keep it to yourself? Basically, just what new way we use to locate individuals. Now, are you saying that NIIMs itself is enabled with the relevant technology for collecting GPS information, individual information about the location,
No.
the location of individual persons from whom we collect it?
No, it's not.
It's not. What are you using to collect this information?
Okay.
What are you using to collect GPS information? Process.
The GPS information is not being processed. GPS information is a static information about a location.
Yes.
Period. That particular data is just like you are. Yes. But it is not about where you are at any given instant.
Do you agree that the technologies available for GPS vary, in capability? That yes, it is true that it has not, that not all GPS satellites can know the exact location of being given. But there are some. Now, what kind of assurance would members of the public have that you're using the technology that cannot locate them?
By just providing them with the information.
In other words, they should trust you.
Yes.
Now, my final question. You do agree that the amendments to the Act, the Registration of Personnel, the amendments that have been challenged before this court, allow the court to, or the ministry to collect a variety of information about it. But you also agree in your affidavit that you really do not need a lot of this. Right. Would it cause you a lot of prejudice or any harm if this information, this superfluous and necessary information, is actually piped from the law? Right now, you say from the national capture, fingerprints and facial. Would it then be fair if we have all the other biometrics that are necessary for the purpose? This can expand from the law.
I wouldn't recommend that.
You would want it to be there for your purposes at any time.
For future, because my understanding would be, as the speed by which technology evolves, yes, at one point in time, as our systems mature, probably the need to use that data will arise. So rather than go through the parliamentary procedures to amend the law to allow that, would rather have it and use it when it's convenient, rather than go through the legal process. The amendment process. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. My ladies and lords, that would be it.
So that is the end of personal examination. Dr. Nyaundi, I'm sure you need some time to collect your thoughts. So it's now 2 and 1 hour.
Remember that
So how many of the petitioners will be examining the other witness?
About an hour for
The process examination.
well, there are two big different about that.
But, Mr. Ocheng, we'll stand you down for now, but you will need to come back at 3:15 for the examination by your counsel.
Thank you very much.
So we stand adjourned at 3:15.